Hi there. Welcome to Activating Magic. I'm your host, Darla Ledoux. Today's episode is a solo episode about being sensitive and being a marketer. In this episode, this is for you if you're someone who identifies as sensitive, maybe you're empathic, or what we call magical, like you're really tuned in to the connection between all things. Maybe you feel energy in a space, and that kind of person has some unique challenges when it comes to being a marketer. So I'm going to talk about that today. I'll talk about my relationship to marketing personally, my journey of realizing I'm sensitive. I'm going to talk a little bit about human design and some aspects of my human design that affect my ability to market. And then I'll pull all the pieces together for you. And I'm also going to share what I recommend as a possible solution if you're resonating and you're someone like me. So let's dive in. So first of all, I'm inspired to share this episode because I'm just back from an event called the Marketer's Cruise. And in the Marketer's Cruise, there were 456, quote, marketers. So entrepreneurs, online, digital entrepreneurs, some physical location, brick and mortar entrepreneurs, but a lot of us on a cruise ship of 4,000 people in total. And I'd been invited to this a couple of times, and intuitively, well, not even intuitively, my initial judgment was no, gross. I don't want to go on something called the Marketer's Cruise because I've never considered myself to be a cruiser. I'm more of an off the beaten path kind of explorer when it comes to travel. And I've never been on a cruise. And then I also don't identify as a marketer, even though I like marketing. I have a certain reaction to the idea of, quote, marketers. So maybe you relate to that. Maybe you would have felt the same way. So my friend Alina had invited me to this a couple of times, and I said no, and it didn't really interest me, but she was very passionate about it. And so as a result, I kind of filed it away in the back of my mind. And then one day I was walking the dog, and I just got this intuitive hit to go on the cruise. And so I followed my guidance and I went ahead and registered. Now, the cruise started on my partner's birthday, so I also registered him as a birthday gift. And so we were together, which was awesome. And we were also vacationing while going on this cruise. So I want to first kind of address this idea of marketers and my relationship to, quote, marketing. So first of all, I have a background in corporate. I first worked in product development, which is like an upstream division we're not a division of marketing, but a form of marketing. We were doing a lot of customer research and developing new products to meet people's needs. So it's a marketing mindset around developing products. I worked at Procter & Gamble, and they're very customer focused. So while I wasn't directly in the marketing department, I was working with the marketing department all the time. So I liked it, right? I really enjoyed that process of looking for the insights and meeting people's needs with products that serve them. And that has translated into my work as a coach. Now, that said, in the very beginning, when I decided to become a coach, I thought, I'm leaving all of that behind. I'm a life coach now, and I don't need any of that. But as soon as I brought those skills that I had from my work there into my current work, my business took off because it's a part of me, right? I like the strategy behind marketing. And then after that career, I actually moved into marketing. I was in the marketing department at LensCrafters and then again at Folgers back at Procter & Gamble. So I was trained, in marketing through Procter & Gamble and basically have a lot of experience in marketing. Now that was marketing with big budgets as opposed to, kind of quick and dirty internet marketing that I have learned since as an entrepreneur. But I have a positive overall relationship to marketing, whereas I know a lot of people like me don't, because they maybe don't have that background and they think of marketing as lies and manipulation and resist it for that reason. So I do need to say I have a general positive thought about marketing as helping someone recognize their solution. That said, when I started my business and I started learning online marketing, which was a while ago, I didn't have a real empowered relationship to the process. So instead of feeling like, hey, I'm going to create an opportunity for people to connect with me and my message, I'm going to see how I can deliver some value, give them a taste of how I work, and, serve up really amazing stuff and then invite them to do more, which is how I think about it now. I was very much thinking these are tasks to get done. It was my whole internal relationship to the process was marketing is tasks to get done, and I've got to, just get them done. There was no fun, there was no joy, there was no creativity. I just had a long to-do list, and it always felt extremely urgent. So if we were in a retreat right now, I'd say raise your hand if you relate to that. It didn't occur like a creative birthing of a new idea or a heartfelt way to connect with people. It felt like check the list. On top of that, I was learning different people's approaches and formulas. And so there was this layer of, I've got to do this right. So there was no room for creativity because I was deferring my inner wisdom to someone else's system, and I was trying to get it done correctly. And so I had a really hard time with, I don't want to say I had a hard time with marketing because I did it, but I didn't have joy while I was doing. And, things worked and things didn't work. Definitely the more joy I had, the more it worked. But I wasn't having a lot of fun with marketing. And so I say that because I know I've worked with so many people over the years who feel similarly that as soon as something becomes a marketing project, they become someone else, right? They turn off their heart, their creativity, and they try to do it right. The experience I had on the marketer's cruise was some of this. So I didn't really know what to expect, and I did go to the preparation webinar, but you can't really get a sense of what it's like when there's 450 people who are very strategic, good at marketing for the most part, right? And they're all on a ship wanting to do business and make deals and all of that. That was part of the language, is making deals. And so as much as I enjoy marketing and I understand the strategy, and I could watch people on the cruise be marketers and I could appreciate their creativity and their ingenuity, it also overwhelmed me a bit because there were a lot of people who seemed to be doing this cruise right in a way that I was not prepared to and didn't even resonate with, right? It's not in my DNA to be that way. But in the very beginning, in the first day and a half, I was a little bit taken out of my sourced magic, my divine guidance, by all of these energies around me. Today, right? So I have this history of I like marketing, I love strategy, I love meeting people's needs, helping them find their solutions. And then layered on top of that is, there's a right way to do online marketing and I should follow other people's formulas. And I've spent the last, probably 7 years disconnecting from that, healing from that, looking for someone outside of me to have the right answer and learning to trust myself and my own creative process as a marketer. And then I got dropped on the ship where immediately all of that old stuff came up, right? I should be more assertive. I should have said my elevator pitch better. Maybe I should go to every workshop. Maybe I should have had my own workshop. Oh my gosh, I missed the chance to like market myself, right? And I'm guessing people here are nodding and you can relate to that. So I want to take a turn into this conversation about being a sensitive and being a marketer, because marketing is everything. In meaning everything we do kind of touches marketing, how we show up, how people view us, whether they trust us, whether they understand what we do, what our promise is, to the tactics of, hosting a webinar or a challenge or an event or offering strategy sessions. Like all of it is marketing. And when you're sensitive, some of the strategies can be a bit more challenging. So for me, I didn't always know I was sensitive. In fact, I really didn't know at all that I was sensitive. So as a kid, I now know I was put into so many situations where my needs didn't matter, where if I had allowed myself to feel my feelings and really be myself in those situations, it would have been unbearably painful, because there was a lot of addiction around me. There was a lot of lack of truth, lack of consistency, lack of communication, but I could feel all of the undercurrents of the energies and the feelings going on. And it was overwhelming, right? So I learned to numb it out. And in fact, on top of numbing it out, I added, like, kind of as a badge of honor, I am adaptable, I am flexible, I am strong, nothing bothers me. Totally disconnected from my feelings and my truth in order to survive this childhood that was, a little harsh. And so I never knew that I was energetically sensitive, that I was, quote, magical, that I had a tenderness around my heart that just like I didn't have any place to express it. I remember at one point when I started my business, I had a friend whose dad spoke French. My name's Darla Ledoux, right? And I learned that Darla means the sweet one or the soft one, and Ledoux means the sweet one, right? So my name literally means the soft and sweet one. And when I started my business, I played on my last name, and my business was Do Coaching, Find Your Sweet Spot. And so I was helping people, really the same way I do now, find, their alignment inside and build their business around that. And one day I went to an event, and we got name tags, and then there were words you could add to your name tags, like adjectives. And one of the options was the word sweet. And so the person knew my business name, and they took the word sweet and stuck it on my name tag. And so I'm walking around this event with sweet on my name tag. Let me tell you, learning that my name meant soft and sweet one, and then having sweet be on my name tag, I hated it, because I was so conditioned that you can't be soft and sweet and be successful in business. Like, those aren't qualities that we admire or revere when it comes to being a business owner, right? And I was like tough and, not adaptable and not bothered by anything. And so soft and sweet just didn't feel good. Yet even today, I can tell you, every layer of transformation I have, every layer, including the most recent ones, makes me more and more present to my sensitivity. Now, I've worked my muscle where I know what I need to go out in the world and still stay connected to my sensitivity, to my softness. But there was definitely a stage where I thought, if I'm going to really be this sensitive, I can't survive in this world, right? But I've also learned that my strength, my sensitivity is my strength. And so, in my work, I hold a very strong space. It takes a lot of strength to hold space for love, for inclusion, right? To make it safe for people to love themselves in your presence. It takes something, but we're not trained that way. We're not conditioned that that's valuable. So, I thought my sensitivity was embarrassing, but it just is. And so back to this experience on the marketers cruise, for the first 2 days, I was feeling probably all 4,000 people on the ship, plus the other sensitive marketers in our group. And I had to really take some time to meditate, tune in, feel myself, remind myself of who the fuck I am and how I work, and that it's okay that I'm feeling all of these things and that that's me. And I can set boundaries and ask my guides to protect me from some of that so that I can enjoy myself. So if you're sensitive, I was talking with someone recently who said, I don't do networking events. And gosh, networking events is how I've met, joint venture partners, people I've interviewed on this podcast. Like, so many good things have come from networking for me. But I understand that thought of when you're sensitive and when we're going to go into this next piece, which is even more important, it may feel overwhelming. It may feel really challenging, or you may feel like you're doing it wrong. And so I want to give you permission to not look like everybody else at a big event, and to be you, and to trust that you're doing it just right for you. So the next piece I want to speak about is human design. And if you don't know what human design is a system. It was downloaded, but it combines the I Ching and astrology. It's based on your date and place of birth. And I have found it to be life-changing for me to really embrace my human design. Now, in human design, there are things that are generated and things that are projected and manifested, etc. There's various things. I'm not going to go deep into that. But for me, I am a generator type, which means I have a lot of, energy that I can generate. It means, I have access to a lot of energy. I'm a 6-2, which is my profile. I'm a sacral authority, which means I have a gut decision making. Just for people who know that, I'm not going to dive into that. But here's the thing. So as a generator, one might think a generator networks well, right? Like, I need to respond to things in the environment in order to show up and speak. But there's something called a projector, and projectors need to be invited, right? They need to be invited to the party, like literally recognized and invited. So I always kind of thought, well, I'm a generator, like that shouldn't be a problem for me. And then I learned that my top gifts, so my incarnation cross, everybody has an incarnation cross. It consists of 4 gates, and those 4 gates are like your top gifts. And we have a bunch of gates, and they all represent gifts that we have access to because they're colored in our chart, defined in our chart. But my top 4 gates in my incarnation cross are all projected gates. So I am a clarion. My incarnation cross is the clarion. The gates are 57, 51, 62, 61. If you know what that means, doesn't matter. But those 4 gates are all projected gates. So what that means is my top gifts have to be invited to the table. If I am, in a group, I've had this experience so many times. If I'm in a group and I feel like, I should say something because I should just be known, right? I need to make sure people know who I am. So I have to contribute to this conversation. And I find something to say. Literally, no one hears me. Now, I want you to get that. Like, I've had the experience over and over and over again where I say something and literally no one hears it, because I wasn't invited to contribute, whether it's energetically or literally, it coming from that place, I won't be heard. So my top gifts are all projected. So my top gifts need to be invited. So if I'm at an event where just people don't see and recognize me as their person, which in many cases they wouldn't, because I don't say a lot unless I'm invited to contribute, then it's not the best place for me to shine just in a group like that. I hold space, I create safety. People will feel my heart. They'll definitely feel my presence, but they will have no idea like who I am or what I do most of the time. Because if lots of people on the marketers cruise are walking around saying, this is what I do and this is how I can help. And they're kind of just teaching, right? Just impromptu teaching all the time. For me, unless I'm invited, it's just not going to land. Now, that said, I was in a small group at one point and someone was struggling with something and I could feel it. I could feel it in my body. My magic was felt invited to share. And so I shared where I was feeling it physically in my body and how whatever the earlier pattern was that was, blocking them was stored in this area of their body. And I just was able to share that. And I said, hey, if you want to do some further work, I'm happy to gift that to you and support you with that. Someone else in the group heard me say that and later came up to me and asked me more about how I work and my gifts. And it was in a little group setting. So I was able to share at that point, and it was really received. People heard it, they got it, they went, yeah. So that's kind of part of the territory for me with my gifts. And for a long time, I tried to be like everybody else. And I wanted to, be able to show up in the most effective way, in the way I saw other people doing it. And yet for me, it didn't work. And when I'm centered and grounded and I trust when I'm invited to share, it's like I meet the right people and it works itself out. So I want to give you permission to be you. And if you operate a little differently, if, you have projected gates in your top gift, if you are a projector, how you would work an event like this would be very different than a manifester who can create ideas and inform people about them. Okay, and that's not to use your human design as an excuse, because I've seen that a lot, especially, projectors feeling like, oh, I can't do anything because I'm not invited. And it's like, we have to look for invitations. We have to put ourselves in places where we can be invited. I'm really grateful I went on this cruise, even though it was a little challenging at times. So pulling this all together, right? Being sensitive, picking up on the energies, feeling the feelings of others, maybe really being sensitive to if people like you or don't like you, like a tender heart like that, and being really hurt by rejection. These things can get in the way of marketing ourselves. Being soft, having, projected gates in human design can make standing out in a big event feel hard. It can make just existing in a big event feel hard, right? Yet we've got to get out of our house. We've got to connect with people. We have to trust that who we are uniquely is enough and just let ourselves be who we are. There's someone that I connected with that I know my connection really helped him get a lot of clarity, and I just let him pour into me. And the way that he gave to me helped him get clear about his gifts. I didn't have to do anything, be anyone, prove anything, and I really made a difference there. So for me, I do well when, I'm invited to speak, on a stage, right? So if I'm at an event, I want to speak at it whenever possible, because when the host invites me up to speak, that's a whole different energy with me in the space. And then I do really well with time to form relationships with people and allow them to recognize me. And a lot of times marketing is like, okay, how many people did you meet? How many people did you convert? How many people said yes to being an affiliate? And I am just like, I have that. Like, I have intentions. I know my goals. I track my numbers eventually on the back end, but I am not that like rigid about it. And for me, giving time and space to allow it to unfold is really great. Maybe I'd have 10% better results if I were more rigid, but I think I'd probably just not be heard, right? And so all of the people who have promoted me over time or been guests on this podcast, etc., are doing those things because we have a relationship and we know each other and they can see me because I've shared and given and related. So I'm curious what you're taking from this. And if you are a sensitive person who is in the world of marketing yourself, if you have a business, you're marketing yourself. And if you're magical, right? Sensitive and magical go hand in hand. Magical means divinely guided, tapped into your knowing, working on behalf of higher consciousness on the planet. And so maybe working in the energetic realms more. And you've got to make your marketing concrete and measure your numbers and make asks and create containers and show up and invite people. It can feel like a lot. And I want to share, well, what do we do? What do we do? So the first thing is empower who you are. We've got to get to the place of loving ourselves and who we are, where we can say, you know what? I just don't do it that way, and that's okay. And I'm going to be me and love myself and have a good time being me and see what happens. The second thing I want to share is that for me, part of how I've developed my muscle of knowing who I am, of trusting my work, of trusting my value and what I can contribute, even when my mind and my ego might say, oh, everybody else is doing it right and I'm not. My way I've learned to trust myself is through hosting retreats. And the reason for that how I explain it to myself is in a retreat, I know I'm invited to be someone's coach, to contribute to them, to hold space for their transformation because they've traveled to be with me, right? So I know I'm invited. That's the first thing. The second thing, it's an intimate space behind closed doors. So if you're someone that gets like panic about introducing yourself in front of a big group, like in a retreat, they've already chosen to come be with you. And I teach people how do you get to the stage where they're ready to travel and come be with you in this room. But they've already chosen to be there. You're safe. You're the leader. And so you get to say whatever you want. And guess what? In the way I generally recommend people design it, you've got 3 whole days to be seen and invited and for them to get a sense that you can help them further. And you don't have to be the loudest person in the room because you can be really quiet and lead a retreat and people lean in. You can design it totally around you and your magic. And for me, doing that over and over and over again, I've led more than 100 retreats now, is what has given me the confidence to know my value and my worth and who I am and how I work when I go out into bigger events like that. And I want that for you. I want that for you. So if you've gotten something of value from this, please like, share, send it to someone who needs to hear this. And if you have been called to host retreats, but you think, oh, I have to be some other kind of marketer to be able to do that, I'm telling you, you don't, because I am quiet, I am sensitive, I bring my magic, but I don't push it on people. And I have been wildly successful. I have made millions of dollars through hosting transformational retreats. And I believe that's available for anyone who identifies with being highly tapped into the energy of a space. So if that interests you, I have developed a new lead magnet called the Ultimate 57-Point Checklist for World-Class Transformational Retreats. And it's available at sourcedexperience.com/checklist. So yeah, I think retreats are the best thing we can add as a sensitive soul in the marketing world to help us be seen and known, to bring people into our turf and develop our gifts and be seen and known for who we are in this intimate setting. I'd love to know what you're taking away. Please let me know in a comment. And I love you. Thank you for listening. And I made it back from the marketer's cruise, and I am better for having survived it. Is that the right word? Thrived through it in spite of my deep sensitivity. All right, this is Darla Ledoux. We'll see you in the next episode.